The president also, Abby, going after former Vice President Biden on comments that he made the other day about the Latino community and also the African-American community here in the United States. And he had to do a little bit of cleanup after that. But the president really seizing on that moment.
And why the hell wouldn't he? If you have any doubt about what Joe Biden thinks of the black community after watching this video, then you officially need your head examined. Welcome to Media Decoded, a channel dedicated to exposing the lies of the mainstream media and the enemy of corporatism, globalism, the Hollywood elite, and the deep state politicians in both parties. If you enjoy this content, please like, share, comment, and subscribe, because YouTube will never help me get this message out. Instead, they will try to stifle it. Now, without further ado, I welcome you to Media Decoded.
But we got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Now, so we can all be clear, none of these statements we'll cover in this video are examples of cognitive decline, of which there are plenty when Joe Biden is concerned. Nor are they gaffes, where someone might mispronounce or misuse a word. See, there are three missteps that we often hear politicians make or say when they speak, and they're divided into three categories. One, saying what you mean and then later regretting it. Two, mispronouncing or using the wrong word as a gaffe. George Bush Jr. was famous for that. And lastly, cognitive decline, where the politician doesn't seem present or seems to have no idea what's going on around him for a few brief moments. Now, we've seen Joe commit all three, but today we are only going to be looking at the things he says that he clearly means, but regrets later. And all of them regard his thoughts on the black community. See, Joe here is clearly with his wits. Admittedly, that's a rare event, but he is thinking clearly and actually speaking his mind. And what he's saying here is that blacks are a monolith. He couldn't be more clear about that. That they should all fall in line and think the same way and vote the same way. He sees them as a group, a single unity. He doesn't see whites like this, not Latinos, just blacks, as if they are somehow inferior and incapable of free thinking. He sees them as a mentally enslaved group, and he's wishing to continue on his political career by keeping them in line, something he feels is easy to do, clearly. Now, let's move on to our next clip.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
Yep, that's right. Poor kids just as able as white kids. Again, speaking his mind, not grasping for words, right? In his heart, he clearly thinks black equals poor, white equals not poor. This we know is the furthest thing from the truth, and it's insulting to both blacks and whites. Yet here he is speaking his truth. How do we know that Joe thinks of blacks as a monolith that are less capable? Well, because he keeps repeating the implication over and over and over. It is clearly his truth. This is just another example. Now, let's move on to the last clip, which is by far the clearest look into the psyche of this man. Watch and observe how well articulated this comment is, how well thought out it is, how heartfelt. He even tries to bring the reporter along for the ride because he so firmly believes this to be true, that he assumes she feels the same exact way. This is just unbelievable.
Yes, and by the way, what you all know, but most people don't know, unlike the African-American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes about different things.
Oh, yep. Next we have blacks are not as diverse as Latinos. No cognitive decline showing here. Simply him stating what he believes to be true. Here he gets right to the heart of it, though. That he feels blacks are not as diverse. They all think alike. They all vote alike, and that they're poor, incapable of free thought, and therefore need to be treated accordingly. The sad part of this is that it's every conservative's criticism of white liberals. The epitome of it. The idea that their view of blacks is condescending, seeing them as a monolith, incapable victims rather than individuals who can accomplish anything they believe. He takes it further, though, to strive for political power based on his assumption of blacks. Now, in life, when people tell you who they are repeatedly, you should believe them. And we're not talking about mixing words or twisting what a person's saying. We're talking about direct statements. This isn't Trump saying we need to ban several countries from travel, then the press running with it and putting words in Trump's mouth. He's looking for a Muslim ban. when he didn't ban Muslims at all. In fact, the largest Muslim countries in the world were not banned. You see, in cases like that, the media has to stretch to draw a conclusion of what they think he might have meant. Well, that's not this case. That's not Joe Biden's cases when it comes to speaking on the black community. He's making direct statements and meaning the exact thing he's saying, leaving no room for interpretation. His thoughts are crystal clear. Joe Biden has no respect for blacks. He panders for the vote and constantly insults them with his statements. It's the worst kind of racism. It's the kind that falls under the guise of altruism. The kind that keeps blacks living under Democratic rule year in and year out while cities crumble and their quality of life degrades. This is Joe Biden's America for blacks. And if you're black and support Joe Biden, I simply state to you, he's got you right where he wants you. And the Democratic Party is thrilled at the notion. In fact, throughout our entire history as a nation, the Democratic Party has always had blacks right where they want them. First physically enslaved, and now mentally. Think about it. Our political parties want nothing more than to retain power. It's the source and the reason and the impetus for every single thing they do and everything they say, okay? So sit back and think for a second, what would happen to the Democratic Party if the urban communities suddenly started to prosper? What political party would stand to gain and which political party would stand to lose if the urban communities began to transcend their class, becoming successful businessmen and successful businesswomen, succeeding in life? And which one stands to gain by the status quo, keeping the cities enslaved to monolithic thinking? You can answer that yourself, quietly, on your own time. Now, I'd also say, if you're black and you think Joe Biden loves you, well, you may be right. He might love you and care about you the same exact way he loves and cares about his dog. Well, that's all I got for now. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to turn on notifications if you'd like to see my next video. I sure look forward to making it. Joe Biden, take us out.
We choose truth over facts.
Oh, I'm not going to be a mule. I got something to do. I got to go do boom, boom, boom.
To the word united. To the number 30330. 30330. Or 303330. Or BOO. Wait. You got it.
Well, folks, eliminate one tax loophole out of $1.6 trillion worth. $1.4 trillion worth. Out of $1.4 billion. It's hard to even say it, it's so much. And by the way, it's cost a lot of money. It cost about $740 billion over 10 years.
I agree that everybody, once they, in fact, they should. Anyway, my time's up.